Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. This is round two. We're trying to get through some tech issues. What a special interview with Alan Lazaros. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time. He's next level university. He's self-improvement, love, health, wealth, all these wonderful ingredients. I said to Alan, we talked for quite a bit before we went on air. I said to Alan, if I would have known you guys 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, you would have saved me at least a decade of my life. So that is an ultimate testimonial. You could have saved me all of that time for me to reach into myself and pull out the stuff that I'm doing now. I could have been doing that a long time ago. And of course, Alan and I love finding commonality. You interview people all over the world, and before you know it, you've got these elements, these particulates of commonality. And Alan had mentioned Einstein in our little get to know each other. And I'm a huge fan of Albert. I channeled him, and right behind him, he's got Einstein-Walter Isaacson, as I have, and that's a bond. And Alan at 26 was in a really bad car accident, almost died. At 29, I was in a really bad car accident and almost died. Should have died, not almost, but should have died. And here we are to explore some amazing things about his journey and what Next Level University is about. And again, I marvel at the universe, how it brings people together, got us together, and our missions and the caring that he provides, and the services and all the stuff. The package is great because I'm such a believer. It was an old Monkey song before your time from the 60s, Daydream Believer. I'm a daydream believer, and I so believe, not because you're here, but in what you're doing, because it really makes a difference. It can make such a huge difference in your life. So that's my monologue. This is great stuff. Alan, why don't you take it away, do a little intro, and we'll kind of jump into some substance.
So, Calvin, thank you for having me. And I appreciate the sincere honor and appreciation and respect that you have for what I do. It means the world. I have a lot of respect for the fact that you're pouring into the world at 80 and still contributing and growing and learning. And I think what we know is very limited and what we don't know is limitless. And to me, I think the second one is much more interesting. I think a lot of people want to rest on the current level they're on, and we are next level university. So I always say you have to risk the current level to get to the next level. And to me, I think I'm 36 years old. I call myself Alan version 3.6, and I'm smarter than I was at Alan 2.6, but certainly not as aware as I'm going to be at 3.7. So I'm grateful for the exploration and to be here. 10 years ago, you mentioned my car accident when I was 26. I did the traditional path before that. So I did the born and raised in Massachusetts. I did the preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, corporate path. And it was very successful for me. I was definitely an academic, straight A's through all of high school. I got what's called the President's Academic Award, signed by George W. Bush. It's actually behind me.
Cool.
And I got all the scholarships and financial aid I could because my dream college was $50,000 a year. It's like a mini MIT in Massachusetts. It's called Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's one of the best engineering colleges in the world. I was a computer engineer, master's in business, and then I was off to the races, tech companies after tech companies after tech companies. And the part of the story I haven't told you yet is that when I was 2 years old, my birth father passed away in a car when he was 28. This was 1991. I was 2. I had a sister who was 6, mother who was 31, and it was much more traumatic for them than it was for me because obviously they had bonded with him so much. When I was 26, after a lot of this success, I got in a car accident, and it was my fault, head-on collision. Fortunately, no one was killed, because if anyone was, it would have been my fault. But it was not a fender bender. This was a 30 miles an hour head-on collision, dark winter night, 2015. That was 10 years ago. So I was 26 years old, and it got me to question sort of everything. And I created a little company, quit corporate, started my own company. It was called Alan Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. And what I realized is that as an academic and an achiever on the traditional path, there was a lot of things, a lot of gaps in my awareness. And I didn't understand why we weren't taught about fitness and why we weren't taught about nutrition and why we weren't taught about these fundamentals. You know, you use money every day of your life, you eat food every day of your life, and you use your body every day of your life, but yet we weren't taught about fitness, finance, or food. And it just made no sense. My first finance course was during my master's program. So now I teach those fundamentals to people all over the world. We have a podcast with 2,200 episodes we're coming up on, and an 18-person team. We work with 113 podcasters and business owners. I personally coach 21 of them. One of them is actually 5 times a week. Imagine me for an hour like this, 5 times a week. I coach couples with my beautiful girlfriend. We have a podcast called the Conscious Couples Podcast. So it's really grown into quite a thing. But really what it comes down to is still that same quote, what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. And it's how do we become healthy, wealthy, and in love? And I always say this, I say everyone wants to be healthy, wealthy, and in love if they're honest with themselves. Everyone wants to be healthier, wealthier, and more in love if they're honest with themselves. But not everybody wants to exercise every day. Not everybody wants to do gratitudes and check-ins with their partner, and not everyone wants to invest, earn more, spend less, and invest the difference. And so the process underneath the iceberg of the results that most people want, the vanity metrics, is actually a lot of hard work, and it requires a lot of humility. And I think with humility and coachability and work ethic, we can all achieve our dreams. And I think that our dreams are there to be meaningful so that we're fulfilled, because ultimately fulfilled people don't want to hurt anybody. They just want to help people. So I'm trying to make the world a better place, because at 26, I realized I had fallen from my path, and now I'm trying to reach my full potential and help others do the same.
Yeah, I'm on the same little boat, with you, and that's what I want to do. And you said some great words, fitness, nutrition. We'll talk more about it. I live off of fitness and nutrition, and my whole life is been fitness and nutrition. I'm walking around. I think I mentioned maybe before, but I have 0 coronary artery plaque.
Nice.
My
Let's go.
LDL, I walk around with a pad, and whenever I'm in the mood, I run in to get my blood checked, because I'm kind of OCD. My LDL is 45, and my cardiologist laughs at me. He says, "Calvin, you don't even have enough cholesterol to make plaque."
Calvin, I call it OCE, obsessive compulsive excellence.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Let's
that.
go. Let's
I don't know
go.
if you watch me, Alan, but I've been taking notes on you. I'm maybe the first interviewer to ever take notes on an interview. I'm writing stuff down as I'm listening to you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Respect.
no, that's what I'm doing. So I don't want to dwell on me, but so what have you learned about self-improvement that can improve people, the industry that you're in?
Yeah.
What have
Well,
you?
so the first thing is I have these 3 circles of the ego that I uncovered or figured out. My girlfriend deserves credit for this. Girlfriend and future wife. Her name's Emilia, and she has these. She calls it primary, secondary, and tertiary truth. And she thinks most people live in the social world, which is tertiary truth, and I'll explain. So we all have to live in 2 worlds. One of them is the social world, which is your reputation and what other people see when they see you and what other people think about you. And the other one is the real world, which is who you are and what you are when no one's watching. And both are important, but the syntax is important. I always say the social world is the wedding photos. The real world is the actual marriage. And we all know those can look very different. So I used to have the syntax wrong. I had high school friends and college friends and corporate friends, and I brought my high school friends to college and my college friends to corporate. And at one point I had a friend who said, "Alan, you are the most popular kid in this college." And at the time I thought that was a compliment. I now realize in hindsight, I lost myself. I was everything for everyone. I was spread too thin. I was a chameleon. I fit in with everybody, but I didn't have a strong grounding in my true self. And after my car accident, I shifted the syntax. I went, okay, I've been playing from the social world first, and I was very successful at it. Social world first, real world second. I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to go real world first, social world second. Now, here's the problem. The economy is built in the social world. Branding, marketing, and sales is predicated on what people think of you. Your reputation in the marketplace is your brand. So that matters. That's why I have the awards in the background. That's why I have my trophies here, because I look very young and I need credibility. That's why I'm dressed nice. So this is the social world. But who I am and what I am when no one's watching is what really matters. And so I focused on that first. So to answer your question about self-improvement, personal development, personal growth, it's the self, the personal. It's the I will look at me and improve me first. We should all sweep our own porch and the whole world will be clean. So back to what I was talking about, the tertiary truth, secondary truth, primary truth. I call them the 3 circles of the ego. The outer layer is what you want other people to believe about you. The next layer in is what you want to believe about you, also known as self-delusion. The inner layer is who you really are. The car accident collapsed the circles. So I always say the distance between the tertiary truth, the third circle of the ego, and the truth of who you really are is the size of your ego. And if you've ever looked this up, you can research an ego death. An ego death is also known as an identity death. So everything you think about yourself changes when trauma strikes. So the car accident collapsed the circles so that who I want others to believe I am, who I want to believe I am, and who I really am all are the same now. And I've worked really, really hard to continue those 3 circles staying the same. Now, obviously, I'm a little different talking to the students that I talked to a group of students last week, 2 weeks ago, building champions, 10-year-olds to 18-year-olds. Obviously, I'm a little different when I'm teaching them how to reverse engineer finish lines than I am on the podcast, than I am on one-on-one coaching calls. But my essence is the same. Whereas in the past, I think out of my fear of abandonment, because my stepdad left when I was young, my dad died, I kind of lost 3 families by the time I was 14. That's a whole other story. My real last name is actually McCorkle. But I think out of fear of abandonment, I was trying to chameleon and fit in, when in reality, I have to have the courage to stand out. And so that's why self-improvement matters. I think self-improvement is this. I think it starts with self-awareness first, self-acceptance second, and then self-improvement third. I think self-improvement usually starts from I want X goal, so I'm going to improve Y. What I think is more important is finding your essence first, self-awareness, then self-acceptance of this is who I am, and then the courage it takes to improve from that place rather than trying to change who you are. I think a lot of people are trying to change who they are. You know, tall and lanky people want to be jacked, and smaller, more built people want to be tall and lanky. I think we all have this weird relationship with ourselves. And I think it gets all twisted up when we're kids, because anyone who's on the far end of any statistical bell curve is basically doesn't belong. Average, ordinary, mediocre, those are words where there's a lot of belonging. And I think human beings crave belonging so deeply. I certainly did. But where I was unique was certain things that I now have to lean into. And so that's really what I think the self-improvement journey is. I think it's owning your strengths and the weaknesses that come with those strengths. And I think it's accepting all of who you are and then improving from there. I don't mean just accept it like be a wrecking ball and, not be conscientious. I mean accept it and learn from it and then improve from that place.
Okay. I so buy into everything you're saying, because I've been around the block a whole bunch, and I know exactly what you're saying. I so believe in it. I'm a poster boy for, in some sense, for what you're talking about. Okay. You kind of you just talked about the 3 circles. Why do you take a holistic approach to self-improvement through health, wealth, love? You don't focus on one, but you focus on the grouping of things.
The why started from pain. So when I was a kid, I playfully refer to my childhood, where I grew up, as the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Born and raised in Massachusetts, little town, small-minded town. And as much as some of the people I grew up with would be upset by that, it is true. And my mom and stepdad did not get along, and that's a polite way to put it. And in my honest opinion, they surrounded themselves with not the greatest people. And quite frankly, they never worked on themselves. And that, I think, is one of the reasons I fell in love with self-improvement, because I think it was the one thing I always needed but never had. I mean, when I look back at my childhood, there was not a lick of self-improvement. Whoa. Okay? And that's just the truth. But when it comes to the health, wealth, and love thing, I had a ton of mentors and coaches. And I'm talking, again, at the end of the day, some of them CEO of a $1 billion tech company, some millionaires, one billionaire. I've met some of my heroes. I've had those whole experiences. And when I was a kid, I was very impressionable, and I always looked up to people. And I think in hindsight, I saw people better than they really were. I had rose-colored glasses for sure. And as I've grown and evolved and I've learned, I'm 36 now, you not only look back and go, wow, they weren't who I thought they were, you actually are alarmed at how unbelievably inaccurate you were about the way you saw, particularly the male role models I had growing up. But of course, that's how I feel, because I aspire to a higher standard. So why holistic? I had a lot of mentors who were wealthy as hell, but they were not healthy at all. And I had a lot of mentors who were wealthy, but divorced and alone and very unhappy, unfulfilled. And I realized that the three main facets of life that I think everyone is after, and I'm an engineer, so I break everything down. So if you want to build this phone, you got to take it apart. And so I've been dissecting life my entire life. And luckily I started dissecting myself as well after 26. Because I think life is like a giant chess game that you have to figure out. And as you grow older and wiser in experience and contemplation and knowledge and reflection, you start to get it. You don't ever get it fully, right? You know that you don't know anything compared to what there is to know, but compared to other people, statistically, you realize, holy crap, do I know more than most people, particularly at my age? Because it turns out a lot of people are on autopilot, not learning a whole lot. That's been alarming. But to answer your original question about health, wealth, and love, holistic self-improvement, I've always been trying to figure out the formula to not end up old and miserable like other people. And that's what I'll share. Growing up, I saw people who were miserable human beings. And I was a kid and I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And they would come to me and they'd say, these are the best years of your life. I would say, God, I hope not. This is terrible. High school was terrible. And they'd be like, these are the best years of your life. Maybe of your life, sir, but not me. So it's like, listen, you're not healthy. You hate your job. You and your wife fight all the time. You act like you have it all together, but I know, I'm on to you. You're a miserable human being. And you don't really know that much. You just act like you do. And I just somehow had this intuitive knowing that they were full of shit. We all know that guy who's just acts like he's the king and he's so full of shit. And I had a lot of those growing up. And over time, you start to learn like, okay, so it is all ego. You actually don't know much of anything. You're not very capable. And I saw these married couples, right? And marriage scared the hell out of me. You guys don't even like each other, never mind love each other. So marriage for me, I just got so much exposure to so many unfulfilled people from such a young age. And some of them were very wealthy. So I knew on some deep level that wealth wasn't the answer. Now, wealth is 1/3 of the equation. How much do you earn? Is it increasing or decreasing? Do you actually find meaning from your work? Do you love what you do, for lack of better phrasing? And do you invest it? And where do you invest it? But the other 2/3 is love and health. Health is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Love is your intimate relationship, your immediate family, your extended family, your clients, colleagues, mentors, mentees, business partners, the whole nine. And to me, that's the three. So love is relationships, wealth is conscientiousness and career, and then health is your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And you need all three. Now, here's the last piece I'll say before we move to the next question. The math is scary. If you are top 1 out of 100, top 1% in health, in wealth, and in love, you're actually 1 in a million. So if you want to be healthy, wealthy, and in love, you better get ready for a hard climb, because those are 3 full-time jobs.
Yeah, I can see that. On the other hand, if you have your health, you have everything. So
Yeah.
the $30 billion don't mean nothing.
Yeah. Health is the first one. Health
Yeah,
is
health
it's
is.
health first. Health
And
first.
I marvel at that. I marvel at that because no matter who, what, where, when, and whatever you have in the bank means nothing.
Yep.
Nothing without your health. Because
Agreed. Calvin agreed.
yeah, so health is it's everything. By the
But
way,
once you're healthy, then wealth matters a lot.
yeah, sure.
You
Because
know.
then you can enjoy it
Yeah,
and you can
exactly.
put it to
Yep.
use and you can do stuff with it.
Yep.
But you got to be healthy. And boy, do
You
I know
gotta.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, completely off topic. You said your girlfriend's name was Amelia.
Hmm.
And there's a little passage here where this character, which is me, interacts with an Amelia, and seconds later, his whole life changes
Whoa.
dramatically.
That
Uh,
is 100% what happened to me.
yeah,
She's changed my life more than any other human being.
yeah, interesting. So my Amelia in here uh, 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 changed my life because it opened up a spiritual door that I actually just sent the story into Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, about Amelia.
Nice.
So there you go. All right, moving on. I had to say that because
Yeah, 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 of course.
these are
Commonality.
interesting. Yeah, these are interesting tidbits. You just before you're talking about fulfillment and stuff. What is the difference between fulfillment um, and happiness? It's not the same, is it?
No. So that's part of the thing too. Growing up, you've got obviously I'm born and raised American, so the Constitution, the pursuit of happiness. Then you've got the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. Happiness, happiness, happiness. The John Lennon thing where there's that story, I don't know if it's true or not, but John Lennon asked his teacher, the teacher of the assignment was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And John Lennon wrote happy, and the teacher said, you don't understand the assignment. And John Lennon said, apparently, you don't understand life. Now, I don't know whether that happened or not, but I think that happiness is this thing that everyone says, but no one knows what it really means. And I know how pretentious this comes off, okay? But I always knew as an engineer that this was off. Like, we're aiming at the wrong thing. Happiness is a byproduct. Meaning is a byproduct. It's like laughter. I can't force you to laugh. If I want you to laugh and we want to laugh and have an authentic laugh, we have to do something or say something funny that brings laughter. So most of the things that we want in life are actually a byproduct of something far higher or far deeper. And so when it comes to goal setting, for example, people say it's about the journey. Listen, the destination you choose in advance dictates the journey. I know, I drove from Boston to Los Angeles, very different journey than driving 30 minutes south. So we have these metaphors that are so wrong. It's not just the journey. It's also the destination, aka the goals and the mountains you choose to climb. It's both. The answer is always both. It's a duality. And so, work harder, not smarter. No, work smarter, not harder. Dumb. You need both. Usually you don't work smart until after you work hard and beat your head against the wall. Innovation happens after frustration. So I feel like we all got it wrong because we think we're right, and it's a duality. No one's right. Everything's an optimal stopping problem. So fulfillment versus happiness. Happiness is the wrong metric. The right metric, I think, are these three things. I think what we call happiness is actually three things. I think number one is joy, being in the present moment, enjoying the moment. So right now I'm in joy. Okay, number two is the trap. It's pleasure. If I eat this donut, then I will be happy. Then I will feel pleasure. I think pleasure is a trap, I do. Now, that doesn't mean you can't ever have pleasure, but pleasure can't be the goal. Hedonistic pleasure will never give you meaning. So for right now, I'm challenged in this moment. I'm not in pleasure right now. This is not pleasurable. This is challenging and frustrating to articulate my thoughts. That's okay. I'm not here for pleasure. I'm here for the third one, which is fulfillment. So it's joy, pleasure, fulfillment. Fulfillment comes from growth and contribution and meaning. It comes from meaningful goals and meaningful progress towards those goals. and it's bigger than you. And I think that that's how you design a magnificent life. Fulfillment, self-belief, self-worth. These are the things we want. But those are actually a byproduct of aiming at meaningful goals and growing and contributing toward them. And I think that my whole life, I grew up in an environment where no one was fulfilled and everyone was pursuing happiness through pleasure. And it was so obviously not the play. And so I always said, my mom and I, we had an argument in my 20s. And I know that I was a challenging kid because I was the kid who questioned everything. Everything. I still do. I contemplate and question everything. Why is the butter on the counter? Why do we do this? Why do you say that? Why? Who, what, when, where, why? How? Those are the questions. Always. 24/7, 365. Always. And my mom said, why does intelligence matter so much to you? Why isn't it enough to just be nice? And I remember thinking that is the dumbest question I've ever heard. Intelligence is what makes us uniquely human. What's the difference between a smartphone and a dumb phone? The smartphone is more capable. But she didn't understand. And like dolphins, primates, humans, we the species, intelligence, prefrontal cortex, learning, growing, understanding. We build computers and phones and internet and TVs. You've never seen a dog build a TV. It's not possible. We bridges, and humans can innovate because we have brains, neuroscience, psychology. So I tried to explain to my mom, I said this is my 21-year-old ego version, okay? I said, Mom, it's not enough to just be nice. I'm trying to figure out the formula to not end up old and miserable like everybody else. And I finally feel like I figured that out. I have a pyramid of fulfillment that has 21 categories. It's a pyramid with 5 levels. Next Level University is the metaphor. And I built it with all my study of Maslow and needs and Tony Robbins, all the work that I've accumulated over my whole lifetime. And I feel like it's pretty sound. And we teach it in group coaching. But basically, it's called the Pyramid of Fulfillment. It has 21 categories: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs that we all have. One of them is belonging, which is wildly left out of Maslow. And it's understandable. Maslow didn't have the internet. But that's what I think is what matters, is fulfillment. And I think fulfillment comes in its simplest form from growth, contribution, and quality of life. As long as you're growing, contributing beyond yourself in your own unique greatness and skills, and have a higher quality of life that gets better over time, I think that you will be fulfilled as a byproduct. And that's what I'm really optimizing for, to have the most fulfilling life possible. But in order to do that, I have to aim at very high goals.
Nicely said. Still taking notes.
Thank you, Calvin.
Yeah, I'm still taking notes. Just to go off topic, take a deep breath, go off topic. One of my cute favorite questions. Here goes. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. There could be a couple of answers. There's no rules.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Boom. Nice answer.
Yeah. I want to ask him, brother, how frustrated are you that the Mona Lisa is what's famous? What about the helicopter? What about the scuba gear? What about the Apollo space shuttle? It's unbelievable what this man had figured out 400 years ago. It's unbelievable. And the Mona Lisa, like, who cares? I'm not trying to be mean, but as an engineer, it's like, who cares, right? So he said, study the art of science and the science of art. I know they're both important, but why the Mona Lisa? It seems stupid.
Hey, and actually, I think they found another Mona Lisa, and now I think they're questioning the original. It's a little bit of confusion, but that's a great answer. I marvel at some of the minds. We talked about Einstein. I absolutely marvel, and I've asked the question many times. I can't process how a mind in 1900 without the internet. Maybe you can help. Nobody's ever given how a mind in 1900 can conceive of relativity.
Yeah. So the theory of relativity, and I don't want to get on some soapbox here. Most people talk as if they know it. Most people have never read it. Einstein has a book called The World as I See It. You've read that, I'm assuming.
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. So it comes down to he's a very unbelievably contemplative human being and curious as hell. Like that's the one thing all geniuses have in common is they are insatiably curious. And that's why everyone thinks they're nuts. I don't give a shit about your birthday. I can't even pretend to I don't even care. I don't care about my own birthday. Don't take it personal. I mean, I took it off Facebook and LinkedIn because I don't want anyone reaching out. I don't want to take my consciousness and put it on trivial things. And so at the end of the day, I marvel at a lot of that too.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about it and I marvel at it. Okay, moving on. Um, in some of the vernacular, you talk about peak performance. Why is peak performance important? What is peak performance?
Nice. Calvin, I do get a jump in a minute, but I'm grateful
Okay,
to be here. Thank you so
all
much. I know
right.
that we had some internet issues, so we didn't get as
Yeah,
long of an interview.
okay.
I'll do the peak performance one and then we'll crank.
Okay,
All
sure.
right.
Okay.
So peak performance, first of all, what is it? It refers to an upside down horseshoe known as a hyperbola in mathematics, where if you put the nachos in for too long, they burn. If you don't put them in long enough, the cheese isn't melted. It's the Goldilocks too much, too little optimal stopping problem. It's like when you're going to a concert, when do you park? The closer you get to the venue, the less likely there's a spot, but you got to park at some point. So there's something called Algorithms to Live By. It's a book, a computer scientist's approach to decision making. And I think in mathematics, and peak performance is in real time right now. I'm trying to figure out the optimal amount of words to explain this concept. And so Aristotle said, people say do the right thing, but who can do the right thing at the right time, in the right way, for the right reason, with the right people, in the right amount? And to me, what I think is more honest is optimal. So people think they're right, everyone's wrong. The truth is they're just not optimal, they're not accurate. So there is an objective truth. 9.8 meters per second squared is gravity. And despite your opinion about it, right? Go jump off a cliff and it'll show you. So don't do that. Obviously, I'm being playful. My point, though, is that everything's an optimal stopping problem. And what is the right amount? What is the optimal thing at the optimal time, for the optimal reason, in the optimal way, at the optimal rate, with the optimal people? And the truth is, you never get to optimal. You just get closer and closer and closer. So I told my business partner, Kevin, I said, brother, I'm never fully right, but I'm definitely not fully wrong. And what if I'm more right than you? And I tried to help explain that it's an upside down horseshoe. We're trying to find the max. The max is optimal. So in any endeavor, there's an optimal stopping problem that we all have to kind of live in the duality of knowing you'll never get there, but try to get closer and closer and closer. And so Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, these greats, they know that they could have gotten better. They could have done better. They're always trying to find the optimal peak performance. And they know, you hear them, even when they win, they're like, well, we should have won by more. Okay, yeah, you scored 40 points though. What's the deal? No, I should have scored 50. They know that they weren't optimal. And I think that that's a mentality. Kevin, we had a $100,000 month. I'm very grateful. But immediately, I didn't celebrate at all. I immediately okay. And he's like, dude, we should celebrate. It's like, I don't really care, man. Like, it has nothing to do with what we did this month. It has to do with what we've done the last 8 years. I don't want to take my focus off of what matters when the $100,000 is a byproduct of the mission we're on. But I also know other people need celebration and whatever. So optimal stopping and peak performance are one and the same. And there's an optimal stopping problem for everything you do. However, it requires a goal. If you don't have a goal, you can't find the optimal stopping problem. So the last piece, Michael Phelps, 28 medals, 23 gold. I always joke, I say, what if Michael Phelps' coach was like, yeah, man, just jump in the pool, swim around. You have to have a goal, and you have to measure and benchmark up against that goal. And then you have to take that into your own unique context, your own unique circumstances, your own unique strengths and weaknesses. And then you have to find an edge to try to be better. And ultimately, it all comes down to game theory and chaos theory and constraint theory and all this different stuff. But it's a math modality of thinking, and hopefully peak performance is something that everyone studies.
Great. This was great. We're going to stop now. This was great. Hey, you ever want to come back? And, I told you I sit here 12 hours a day. I'll get you. I'm going to stop recording. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Just
you for having
30
me. I'll come
seconds,
back anytime.
30
Yep.
seconds to do a wrap. I'm going to stop recording. Alan, this was fabulous. I love this stuff. And you're amazing. truly, yeah, beyond my expectations. This was great.
Thank
Stay
you,
right
Calvin.
there.